Good afternoon. John here. Got another Tribe of G planning video. Some of the stuff that I've got going on. Recently, I received a FedEx shipment yesterday of 5. Let me get these babies out. 5. Now, 3, 4. Come here, 4. Come here. Okay, 4. 4. And finally, 5 Yanmar 6LYA-UTE oil filters. I figure it's going to take me about 5 oil changes on this trip, and if it was Cummins, my engine, if it were Cummins or Detroit or Caterpillar or Perkins, all of which I've had experience with, I wouldn't be so concerned. But I've never had a Yanmar engine before, and I don't know how hard stuff is going to be to find. The oil won't be any problem, because the first oil change I'm going to switch it to full synthetic shell Rotella. When I had the guys change oil down in Texas, I forgot to tell them to do that, so they put in Yanmar dinosaur oil, which is okay, but I'm a full synthetic guy, especially in diesel engines. My experience shows that it's worth the extra cost. Plus, I love shell Rotella. Used it for, God almighty, 30 years now. Started out with their dinosaur oil, of course, but switched to their full synthetic more recently. So anyway, that's what I'm going to do there. I also got this thing. Come here. And this is a night visual distress signal for boats. WEEMS and PLATH. They're an old-timey, I don't know if they're American or British, but anyway, you are required on boats by the U.S. Coast Guard to have a certain number, pardon me, good grief, springtime, of flares, 12 gauge flares. Well, then that'd be 12 gauge, but most of them are 12 gauge in the U.S. Some of them are 25 millimeter. But the thing about those things is they expire. I think they're good for 3 years, and you got to replace them. And when you get inspected by the Coast Guard, if your flares are expired, you got a problem. And I don't know how big a problem, because I've never had it happen, but I've heard that it's a problem. But this thing is the first device that has come onto the market that will replace the requirement for flares, and it's approved by the U.S. Coast Guard. It's got 3 C batteries in here, and all you do, and it floats, you turn it on, and those of you ham radio operators are going to recognize that signal. Yeah. Dit, dit, dit. Dit, dit, dit. Da, da, da. Dit, dit, dit. And supposedly it'll do that for 60 hours. So it floats. This is like a little float collar. Now obviously it wouldn't be as good as a flare. That would be up in the water, or would be up in the air, but flares last for just a few seconds, and if you happen to be glancing out there and see one, you're good. But anyway, this one fulfills that requirement. So I've got flares on the boat, and I honestly don't know if they're expired or not. Chances are they are, but they still work. They just have an expiration date on them. And it's interesting, in Canada they're really funny about weapons, as we've talked about here before. And I have decided I'm not gonna take a pistol with me, just for that. Plus, there's some states that they're a problem. But some Canadian authorities consider those flare launchers, even though they're required by the U.S. Coast Guard, as weapons. So if you've got them and the Canadians stop you, which happens with a certain degree of regularity, you tell them, you don't say you've got a flare pistol, you say you have a flare launcher, and that usually gets you by. But anyway, in that regard, I have come up with this solution for personal protection, which I probably won't use. You know, I'm never But anyway, I feel more comfortable if I could take a pistol, but I can't. So I got this thing. And this, as you can see, is a high-power slingshot. And it came with a bunch of smallish, I think they're 3/8 pieces of shot. But then I bought these, and these are half-inch ammo. And I think at close range, if it comes down to that, if I pop someone anywhere in the body with this thing, with a half-inch steel ball, you know, I don't think it'll kill them, but I think it'll hurt them bad enough that it'll make them rethink what they're doing. So anyway, that's my solution for personal protection at this point, which I hope and plan that I'll never need, but anyway, it gives me a little bit better confidence, I guess. And then, more recently, I got, from my friends at Garmin, updated charts for my Garmin chart plotter, which is on the boat. And this little guy here, this nice little SD RAM card, $214 for updated charts. And I'm not sure when they're updated till, but recently this year. So I stick that in the chart plotter, and it reads it, and actually I have to leave it in there in order to take advantage of it. But Garmin is a money-making machine, and they know how to do all that stuff. And more recently, I discovered that the port running light is a Gila, manufactured by Gila company, and the starboard one is by Aqua somebody, different manufacturer. So obviously it's been changed out. So I got two bulbs, because I looked at the Gila one first. I'm switching everything to LED. And of course, when I opened up the Aquamatic or something, on the starboard side, it had a different size bulb in it. So I now have a green LED bulb that I can't use. But anyway, this is a green LED bulb that'll go in the starboard side running light. And I think we mentioned this before, but my son-in-law asked me why I didn't just get white, and the reason is I think you guys will recall, is that the way a lens works is that if you have a white bulb, a red lens filters out all the wavelengths of light except for the red portion of the spectrum. So the green does the same thing. It filters out all the wavelength of light from the spectrum except the green portion. So if you have a green bulb and a green lens, you're going to get all the light energy going through that lens. You won't have, 70% of it filtered out, or whatever the number would be. I don't know. But anyway, that's why I did that. And this came from some outfit out in Tacoma, Washington, of all things. But anyway, you can get all kinds of bulb replacements in LED these days. Down in the cabin part where my bunk is, and the shower and the head and all that stuff, there are 3 reading lights, and the bulbs that are in there are just plain old automobile 1003 bulbs. So I bought a sack of 1003 LEDs, and I only need 3 of them, but I could either get 10 of them for $11, or I could pay $7 a piece for them. So I opted for 10 of them for $11, and they'll outlast me. So anyway, I don't know if my truck's got any 1003s in it or not, but these are just plain white bulbs that I'm going to replace down there in the cabin for reading lights. And finally, I wanted to show one other thing which I've been working on a lot lately, and that is I have this book, Great Loop Navigation Notes, compiled by Captain Alan Lloyd. He's from Ohio, of all places. And what he has done is he has compiled this book, and it takes you all the way on the Great Loop through. This is the west coast, and this is Moorhaven. That's going across Lake Okeechobee, and somewhere here is Roland Martin's Marina. You probably all heard of him. And so anyway, what he's done is he's put these waypoints in here, and he sent those out on a here's my phone's ringing, AT&T. I don't want to talk to them. And that's the Ohio State Marching Band Drum Corps, by the way. So anyway, what I'm doing is I'm putting all these in, or I've already got them loaded in, and then I'm going in on Open CPN, and wherever there is a difficult part of the route, I'm creating a route which I'm uploading to Aqua Maps on my iPad. That'll be my major navigation system. So anyway, this is really handy. It takes a while to get it all in there, but there's some places, particularly in Georgia and up around the Cape Fear River right there, that it gets really tricky. So that's what I'm doing. That's what I've been doing. I've got the whole west coast of Florida done. I'm working on getting across Lake Okeechobee right now, which isn't too bad, but there's a place out in the middle you got to make a hard left-hand turn, so I'm going to create a route for that. And then as I'm traveling, Aqua Maps will show my boat right in the middle of that track, or it'll put my boat wherever my boat is, but hopefully I'm going to keep my boat in the middle of the track. And so I'll be able to follow that and safely avoid running aground too often. From what I gather, running aground is probably going to happen somewhere, but if you're going slow and you're in sand or mud, you're not too far off. If you're going fast, you're going to stick it in pretty good, but I'm going to go slow mostly. So anyway, that's what's cooking these days. Hope you're all having a good day. And it's chilly today, but still not chilly enough for socks. See ya.